Hello, this is going to be a short tutorial on setting up Xcode on macOS to run C++ projects, to do C++ development. I've got the Apple Store open. I'm going to search for Xcode. I am currently running on macOS Big Sur version 11.1. You need Catalina, at least I believe it's a 10.15.4 or something like that to run Xcode. If it won't download, it'll tell you when you go to install it. If you don't have a high enough version of operating system, you would need to upgrade. But I've already installed it. It took a really long time, but this is what you want, the Xcode developer tools. And after it goes through its normal installation, just picking all the defaults, we can then launch it. I went ahead and pinned it to the dock here. I am not a Mac person, so bear with me. But I went ahead and pinned it here. I'm going to go ahead and launch it. I am running in a VM, so things are running very slow here, but okay, it came up pretty quick. So I'm going to go ahead and close the Apple Store. And now that I have Xcode running, I'm just going to go through creating a simple Hello World project. So I'm going to start with creating a new Xcode project. I may pause at times because my VM is running kind of slow right now. I'm working on getting it situated better on my machine. Okay, so here's the Xcode environment coming up. All right, and it'll normally come up. Let me see if I can switch it back. It remembered the last place that I clicked. I want to show you what it would normally look like. So this is the view that we'll normally see when it comes up. And what we need to do is we're going to be creating console-based applications that would run on the actual Mac operating system. So we would go to Mac operating system, and then we can do these command line tool where it looks like it's running in a terminal, which is basically what we're going to do. So we're going to click on command line tool and say next. And then we need to give it a project name. So let's just do Hello World for our project name. Notice I'm going to uppercase it, and we'll see why here in a minute. I am going to, I'm just going to go ahead, and in this we want to pick C++ in the language. All right. You can do an organization identifier. It's not required, so I'm just going to leave that. Actually, it wants one, so I'm going to do edu.fgcu, and that'll just be that'll work for us. Or we could do COP 2001, and that'll be more our class. Let's do that. COP.2001 Hello World, and then we'll do next. All right, now it wants to know where to put it. And notice it's kind of already navigated to the desktop. I don't want to put it there. So I'm going to click on Documents. And then in Documents, I'm going to create a new folder. I'm just going to call it Repos. And if you watch the Windows version, you'll see this stands for repository. It's just a good place to create our projects. And so we'll select that directory. We'll let it go ahead and create a Git repository on the Mac. and we'll look at playing with that later. And now we're just waiting for it to load the new project interface. All right, so it's come up and it's saying we have no author information was supplied by the version control system, and it wants to have an author's name in there. So I'm just going to put P. Allen. I'll do P. Allen gcu.edu. We don't need to worry about ignored files, and this is, like I said, this is all for the Git source code repository. Okay, and that's good enough. So that should all be saved. I'm just going to go ahead and close. All right, and now we're in, and notice it's already created a source code. Now these are configurations, and we'll need to do some of these, especially in the build settings coming up soon. But for right now, we don't really need it. We just can go ahead and jump right in and edit this main CPP file. All right, so here we have, it's already given us basically a full hello world, and that's good. The only thing I would change, this is pretty close to what we want. One thing is we need to rename these files, and so I'm going to rename it to hello world, and I'm going to keep it lowercase with the .cpp extension. That's very important. But we want the name of our source code file to be similar to the project. Notice I'm going to lowercase it so that when I go to look for it on the file system, it's easier for me to find. And I'll show that in just a second. And then I am going to change this to 2 asterisks. It's going to try to help me. And I'm going to get rid of these. And I'm going to put 1 asterisk and an end. And so we have a multi-line comment, we only need that first slash and asterisk. I'm doing the extra one just because it helps document the file header comment block that we're doing. And we'll talk more about the self-documentation parts of the development studio. But what we want here is we want to document that this is the file name. I'm going to get rid of this. It's going to let me. And I'm just going to change this to by. Notice it used that author's information, so I'll just leave that. And we want to do sorry, I'm fumbling around with the keyboard because I'm not used to the Mac. We're gonna come down here and see. Normally, I would say keep this simple and just keep everything over here for this comment block. We're going to do an organization and let's line these up with a tab, if it will. And it's all over the place. Let's do COP 2001 and do your term. This is 2021-01, and what your CRN is. We are either 10410 or 10409. All right, and then we need a description. All right, and our description can be something like demo. Hello world in C++. Our description should be something functional that describes this specific file and the project and what this file is doing in the project. Now this has already done a lot for me, and so that's fine. We're going to leave it. This is a directive. Let's put a comment on it though and say an end-of-line comment and say that this is the console console library. All right, and that'll be for putting stuff on the console or reading from the console. All right, this is fine. We can leave these arguments. We don't need them. We're not going to accept command line arguments. We typically would just take them out and just have the int main. The important thing, this is a declaration statement where we're declaring a function. We know it's a function because we have the left and right parentheses for the parameter list. But since it says it's returning an integer, we have to have a return instruction with an integer. In this case, we have an integer literal 0, which is good. That's going to tell the operating system, which is what's going to call main, that this program exited successfully. Doesn't mean the program ran successfully. It just means it didn't abort. This insert code here is great, but we definitely want to get rid of any kind of comments like this, and we want to change them to something like output text to the console window. All right, and comments should be functional. We don't want to say call the cout function with string hello world. We can determine that from this. But here we see the standard template library namespace. The 2 colons tell us that this is a namespace, and this happens to be the standard namespace for this function, which is in the standard template library. This is called console out or cout, and that's for writing text on the console. Here we have an insertion operator, which is 2 left chevrons. We call them chevrons when we're not talking about logic like less than. But so we have an insertion operator saying that and notice it points towards the console out function, saying we want to send text out to the console. And then inside of double quotes, we have our string hello world. Now here they're adding an escape character for an end of line. I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm going to do another insertion operator. And from the standard template library, I'm going to do an end line. All right, and then we have our semicolon to end that statement. All right, and I'm going to save this file. I just hit Control S. I think it's auto saving anyway, but you're gonna, like I said, you're gonna have to bear with me. I'm not a Java or a Mac person. I'm more Windows when it comes to this environment. Okay, so under the product menu, we can come down and we can build for testing. All right, and then we can do a build here. Oh, I think I clicked it twice. So I'm going to hit cancel here. And we see it up here that it's building. Okay, and it says build succeeded. Now, what if build didn't succeed? Let's go up here and mess up. Let's do cut instead of cout. And then let's do a build. And we get that build failed, and it's telling us right here, no member named cut in namespace standard, right? And it's probably even giving me more that I can't see to help me. Here we go. So replace cut with cout, and you can actually just look at that. You can just hit fix here, and it fixed it for me. All right, so that's good. I'm going to go ahead and run it. So I'm just going to do build and then run. And it says it's running it up here. And I'm trying to get it to show me the console window. Okay, and it came up on its own. We see down here the console window came up and we have hello world, and then our program ended with exit code 0. If we didn't want it to exit yet, we can set a breakpoint in here. I'm going to click on here line 14. It has to be on an executable line. I only have 2 lines that are actually executable instructions in here. Remember, I have comments, I have directives, I have declaration statements, and I have executable instructions. And so I have 2 executable instructions in here. And I can set a breakpoint on any of those. And notice I can come in here and I can so I actually created a breakpoint just by clicking in here, and then I can disable it. But let's just try debugging to there. So I'm going to go to debug. Actually, I think what I have to do is just build and run it. All right, notice it has stopped on this line 14. It actually has not exited or executed that line yet. It's highlighted as green to say this would be the next line to be executed. It has already executed the standard cout, so we already have hello world on the console. It's just waiting for us to finish. Now, we can finish here in the debug. We can just do continue, which will just run to the end, or we could do step over to step over this instruction, which would put us typically just on line 15, which would be prior to the return to what called main, which is outside of our program. But I'm just going to do continue and let it finish. And it'll end here with exit code 0. And so that's it. The last thing I wanted to show was our files out on the operating system. Right, so if I click on Finder, normally it would come up. It's showing recents, but let's just say it came up somewhere else. Remember, we put our project, and we kind of see it up here, we put it in Documents and in this Repos directory. And then here's our Hello World project that we created. And when we go into that, notice we have a Hello World Xcode project file. This is a properties file that kind of has any settings that we made in our project, and we don't want that file. Notice it's uppercased along with the project folder, and here we have another project folder inside the Hello World project. We have another Hello World folder, and if we go in there, here's our Hello World CPP file, and notice it's all lowercase, and that just helps me make sure that I've got the right file to submit for a grade for an assignment. So it's just a trick that I use to use uppercase in my project names and lowercase in my source code file names. All right, so that was a very quick tutorial on writing a Hello World program in Xcode for C++.